Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to do my last tournament report for 9th edition Astra Militarum Codex. Having just had a baby, I was able to finally get away for a weekend and play at the Outpost Springtime Slaughter GT in Sheffield, UK. A cool venue. There were 16 players, which actually included 4 guard players including myself. So my 2000 point army list used regimental doctrines of Swift as the Wind and Holoin weapons. I started on 4 command points, courtesy of Lord Solar's CP bonus, with him as Warlord of course, and then a Gatekeeper equipped tank commander with las cannon and plasma cannons, Colonel Straken, an Acadian command squad with the Warlord trait Master Tactician, and a Bullgryn bodyguard with a brute shield for the 4+ invul save. There's then 2 Acadian shock troop squads, 2 Rough Rider squads of 5, with me proxying in some Death Corps of Creek Pony Riders, 3 Scout Sentinels, a Hellhound, a 3-man Bullgryns squad, a 4-man Bullgryns squad, and the super cool Sly Marbo. It's then rounded out with a Mortar squad with 3 Executioner Plasma Cannon Leman Russes, all with front spods and heavy bolters and double flamers, and one of them taking in the tank A's of Knight of Piety. A very non-meta guard list, as you can see, with no Kazrakins, no Relic Banner, only 1 Mortar squad and no Rogal Dawn. I hadn't played in about 3 months thanks to the newborn daughter, and I honestly wanted to just roll dice, so my expectations for these 5 games were very realistic. So game 1 I went into Thousand Suns on the mission Recover the Relic. I rolled to go first and took some lessons learnt from some of my patrons and used my Scout Sentinels to be very annoying to my opponent. I used a stratagem, Maverick Maneuvers, to get 2 into easy charge range of a squad of Rubric Marines that my opponent had deployed close to his left arm front objective. Knowing that these Marines would struggle to punch through the toughness 6, 7 wound and a 4+ save, I charged both into that squad and compressed my opponent's front left objective. I also utilised the other Scout Sentinel as a Smite Sponge and likewise exploited the 5+ Feel No Pain against mortal wounds on the Knight of Piety Lemon Rust battle tank. I even charged that thing into a 10-man blob of Terminators, knowing that with the stratagem Ablative Plate, with its -1 damage, it would take a bit more than you'd think to be killed off by those Terminators. It ended up being a very lopsided battle, with me dominating the right-hand side of the board and my opponent gradually pushing me off the left-hand side of the board. The Hellhound was super speedy, racing off and contesting my opponent's left-hand side objective after he shook off the Scout Sentinels, and the Rough Riders managed to tear apart some Rubric Marines with their frag tips hitting on 2s thanks to the order fixed bayonets. I surprised myself here, managed to pull the win at 89 to 75. I think what gave me the game here was the knowledge that my opponent would struggle to effectively deal with the toughness 8 Leman Russes, and I pushed them up aggressively. Game 2 was an Adeptus Sororitas on the mission Tighter Conviction, where I went first again. Due to the terrain layout, I was able to draw a line against my opponent's Emulator Flame Tank, destroying it turn 1, and my mortars picked off several of his multi-melter equipped Retributor sisters. Again, I charged the Scout Sentinel into 2 Battle Sister squads on my opponent's left-hand flank, and this set the scene for the game, where I did on the right-hand side of the board and effectively screened out all of his reinforcements my opponents had, including 2 Sephiron fast attack squads, and the super character Celestine, and a pair of characters being the Ethereal Stern and the Kyagle of the Bloody Tears. Every turn the mortars would bully the multi-melter sisters, and Lord Solar's 4 rerolls really made them work quite well. The Rough Riders even made it all the way to the back of the board and stole my opponent's home objective, thanks to their extra movement from Swift as the Wind and also its +1 to the charge. The command squad managed to last a full 3 rounds in a fist fight against Celestine, thanks to the Cadius stand stratagem, toughness 5 Bullgryn with its 4+ invul save and the 5+ Feel No Pain from the medic. I bagged this game 83 to 70 with a turn 1 charge, probably giving me the game again from the Sentinels. Also, knowing my opponent's only real way to deal with my tanks was the multi-melters, meant I effectively avoided them, and also kept CP to pop smoke, use the Ablative Plate stratagem again, and shoot on death if they did die via the Vengeance Salute stratagem. So feeling good from that. and frankly quite surprised at my success, I then went into Adeptuscustodies. Here the wheels fell completely off the wagon, with my opponent, who was an absolute gentleman, pulled down my pants and gave me an absolute spanking. I didn't make things easy for myself, choosing the wrong secondary objectives and failing to deploy effectively, losing a squad of Rough Riders to some long-range shooting from a grav tank, and then my opponent, who got first turn, rushing 9 jet bikes into my face and crippling Lemon Russes with their melter bombs. I went all in and blasted these jet bikes with all 5 tanks and managed to kill a whopping 3 in one full turn of shooting. Turn 2 was a slaughter, with these jet bikes pushing into melee, followed up by Custodes Dreadnoughts, Terminators and Adeptuscustodies characters to table me by turn 3. I lost this one a terrible 19-90, with the loss being driven by the fact I couldn't spot my opponent's weaknesses, nor deal with his hyper-aggressive approach. In my defence, however, this chap ended up winning the tournament and also fought another guard player later on, albeit at a better score for the guard player at about 30-90. Okay, day 2, and I finally had the guard mirror match. My opponent was another gentleman, and we had a great time guessing each other's stratagems and next move. My opponent effectively outshot me with a Rogel Dawn with a Presser Cannon, Vanquisher equipped Battle Cannon Lemon Russ, a squad of Kazrakan and multiple Scion squads in reserves. I went second this time and actually managed to not lose too much in the first turn due to some very careful deployment. We both traded Lemon Russes, playing a game of attrition. However, as my opponent had a Tech Priest, it granted a 5+ invul save per turn, meaning more of my shots bounced than his did. And likewise, the Tech Priest could also, of course, heal wounds on damaged tanks. Despite this, I actually had quite good ball control throughout the game, with a squad of 4 Bullgryns holding the center objective for 2 turns, despite wearing an absolute barrage of firepower. When they died, I pushed up the command squad, who also took a boatload of punishment, and 1 squad of Rough Riders, actually one of the last units to survive in my list, contesting my opponent's bottom right objective, mincing Scions and infantry men thanks to the frag tips. By turn 5, however, I was tabled and my opponent took this win a comfortable 96-64. So the final game was into I hands, and this I knew was going to be a tough match for me. My opponent had 3 land speeders equipped with multi-melters, 3 dreadnoughts with plasma incinerators, and 2 desolation squads with the shoot out of line of sight Nerf guns. I actually got first turn and tried the trick again of charging in the Scout Sentinels into some infiltrators and also some Desolation Marines. The plan kind of worked, keeping my opponent at bay for 1 turn in his deployment zone. However, the Desolation Marines completely peppered my mortars and Rough Riders. I played a very cagey game most of the match before my opponent stepped everything out into the open and pushed up the board. The execution of Plasma Cannon Lemon Russes did work, but against -1 damaged dreadnoughts, they did a lot less than I would have hoped for. Ended up losing this one again and lost a modest 92-65. So from all of that, I learnt that my combat guard list can function very effectively into relatively weak high body count opponents like the Sisters opponent and also the Thousand Suns opponent. There was also an Orc player with plenty of boys, and I reckon I would have had a good chance into that list. However, against opponents with tougher armies or better shooting ones, I found I just couldn't play into them too well. Now, unit-wise, Sly Marbo, Straken and the second squad of Rough Riders just didn't earn their keep. The Hellhound was likewise terrible, and I'd say a second squad of Bullgryns is a bit too much. If I had my time again, I would just simply take 2 more Lemon Russes and more infantry squads. I only played boots on the ground in 2 matches, instead going for engage or fronts, which is of course always risky. Fundamentally, however, I knew that I haven't not played in a long time, and playing a very unorthodox list meant I wasn't going to do super well, but I'm okay with that. As I said at the start of the video, I just wanted to roll dice and have a good time, and I rolled plenty of dice and did have a good time. I also managed to pick up Best Sporting, which is super nice, including this snazzy chainsaw trophy the organisers had created. But yep, that's my final tournament report with the 9th edition Codex. I had a great time and look forward to getting the grips with the 10th edition book and battling out in a tournament sometime soon. So if you enjoyed this video and want to support me, you can do so with a like, comment or by subscribing, joining my Patreon platoon, or simply watching any of my other YouTube videos. A massive thanks to my current supporters. Let's get your bayonet sharp, las gun oiled. Faith for the Emperor strong. Patron platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn. Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten. Tank Commander Mitchell. Colour Sergeant DuPont. Sergeants Adal, the Colonel Merrill. Veteran Gibson, Hall, Lundeen. Guardsman Beard, Coquelin, Flint, Hills, Malik, Nitton, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin. Conscripts England, Gilliam, Goodwin.